Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. This is an extremely exciting time because a huge VR MMO, Zenith, is about to drop, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a blast with this game. That being said, it's not for everyone, and today we're going over everything right and wrong with this title. Please note, this is not a review. And since this is an MMO, I would really need something like 50 hours in-game post-launch to give this title a true evaluation. So instead, this is just a collection of both subjective and objective items that I believe Zenith does right and wrong. By the time I'm done with this video, you should know if the game is right for you, and feel free to comment when you agree or disagree with my assessment. As always, there are links and timestamps in the description, and let's start off with the negative so we can end this video on a high note. And like I said, some of these items are subjective and won't matter to you at all. Personally, none of these are deal breakers for me, but that's up to you to decide, starting with our first issue, character creation. Character creation in an online RPG is a form of self-expression. You're going to embody this character that in some way will represent you. And unfortunately, the options here are basically non-existent. There are no playable races. You can't alter your character's height, musculature, or any other physical features besides gender, skin tone, hair color, and a very few similar looking faces. Characters are almost gender neutral, with no predominantly male or female features. And personally, I would want my character to be running around shirtless with ripped, bulging muscles and covered in tattoos. But that's not what Zenith is going for. In its current form, character creation leaves everyone looking basically the same. I can easily move past this though, especially since Zenith is delivering an extremely large VR world to explore with over 100 hours of potential gameplay. There is no other game in VR at this scale, and it's done amazingly well. To help keep each area exciting, there are hidden items which provide additional lore or upgrade your stamina. There are group events scattered around the world, plus you can climb anything and just have a blast flying around. When you're not taking in the scenery or battling it out, there is a full cooking system to explore. While this might pale in comparison to other flat screen MMOs, it's a lot more immersive and much more than we typically get from a VR title. For a one-time purchase of $29.99 with no subscription fees, this is an insane value. Now, MMOs do come with additional drawbacks, and one that is a much larger issue for me is the server system. You're required to create your character on a specific server, and in the case of Zenith, it's referred to as a shard. You'll want to be on a local server for the best experience, otherwise performance could degrade, and combat won't look as fluid. Also, as an online service, there will be occasional downtime where you just can't log in, but this is normal of any MMO. Now, these shards also severely limit who you will be interacting with in the game. The VR community that I engage with on a daily basis is global, and almost no one else is on the East Coast with me. So it doesn't look like I'll be playing with my close VR friends unless I'm willing to degrade my performance or run alternate characters, which I just don't have the time for. Technically, you can switch shards once every 24 hours, but that's a bit of a pain. So it looks like I'll need to say goodbye to my international friends, but don't worry too much because Zenith has an amazing community. Ramen VR has worked extremely hard on building a thriving and positive community. They've been very responsive to feedback, and it shows. I was given a little bit of a personal tour by Andy from Ramen VR, and players continually approached us just to thank Andy for all the hard work that was put into the game. In only a few months, the game has significantly improved, based mainly on community feedback. The developer-player relationship runs deep, and it shows. The central city even includes player-contributed photos, and I completely understand why this game's Kickstarter was fully funded in only 4 hours. I expect this title to continue to grow and thrive for a very long time, but that being said, there are currently some performance and bug issues that you may have to deal with. Overall, performance is actually quite excellent, and I've spent hours playing on both my Index and the Quest 2, but unfortunately in my last playtest, I experienced multiple crashes on both platforms. Now, this was the first time out of all my play sessions this ever happened, and could have been due to a specific server-side issue, so maybe this was just a fluke specific to a beta server on a specific day. But server issues could always arise in an online MMO, and historically, launch days for new MMOs can be hell. So just keep that in mind if you have trouble on day one. Now, personally, I do think this was much more of a fluke, but we'll have to wait and see how these servers hold up when everything is live. Now, I did also experience a myriad of other minor bugs, none of which were game-breaking, only slight nuisances. After my first crash, my character's subclass was changed, leading me to believe I lost all of my progression, which is an absolutely terrifying experience for someone who plays MMOs. and I also had some issues cooking, which led me to lose resources, plus a few other oddities like inconsistent fall damage and minor text issues that I know were being resolved. A little bit more jarring though was my Quest 2 experience. It feels like the headset is being pushed to the max, and character heads disappearing and stutters can be common when moving into a large area. Once again, not a deal breaker, and in truth, Zenith runs better than other titles like Medal of Honor and Blade and Sorcery Nomad. But overall, my experience was noticeably better for PC VR, especially when it comes to the graphics. Maybe the cartoony style isn't for you, but it really pops in VR, and even on the Quest 2, this is still a great looking game. The environments truly shine, and I recommend just climbing the tallest object you can find just to take in the world. I know people like to use the phrase, I don't play graphics, I play games, but we all love eye candy, and these environments help with the overall immersion. It's also not your traditional sci-fi or fantasy setting, which definitely helps set it apart from other games. The unique looking characters are quite intriguing, making me wonder more about the game's backstory, and this world truly encourages you to just explore. Now, while I find a lot of this intriguing and a breath of fresh air, what I wasn't overly excited about is the combat. This is a highly subjective topic, and combat has significantly improved since the alpha version. There are now physics-based collisions, enemies will attempt to dodge your attacks, and it feels relatively reactive, especially for an MMO. It's just not a system I'm personally fond of, and at times it feels more like a game of math. You'll be playing as one of the classic MMO Holy Trinity classes, tank, DPS, or healer, and your goal is to outnumber the enemies. Meaning make sure most of the damage goes to the tank, heal faster than the enemies damage you, and dish out damage as quickly as possible. It's extremely separated from IRL combat, and while it might work on flat screen, in VR where immersion is key, it feels extra grindy. There is something rewarding about gaining the muscle memory and increasing your proficiency with melee or spell-based attacks, but once again, it just doesn't feel as good as combat found in other VR titles. When you find a new weapon in Zenith, the only thing that changes is your damage output number. But in some of my favorite online RPGs like Carnage Chronicles or Legendary Tales, each new weapon is a game changer. How you swing, block, counterattack is completely unique, and you end up forming a preference on what weapon to use and your particular playstyle. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges here, and a system like I'm talking about would be extremely difficult to implement in an MMO, but this is one reason why an MMO might not be right for you. I'm still extremely hopeful for this title though, because Ramen VR has vision. They set out to deliver a specific product, and for the most part, they nailed it. Against all odds, Zenith works. There were major hurdles that made this product much more difficult than a standard MMO or just a plain VR game. They've successfully integrated cross-play support, and they're just getting started. Major updates like PvP are planned, and after speaking with Andy from Ramen, I can clearly see the passion and dedication. This game has the potential to live on for years. Will you be along for that ride? Comes down to if this is your style or not. Okay guys, that was today's video. I hope it delivered the information you were looking for, and I would absolutely love to hear your feedback. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And as always, I will see you guys on next time.